Welcome to another pleasant day in my backyard. We're going to talk about creating your standards tree. I'm going to show you the finished product first and then work backwards. This is what is viewed in my screen in my classroom. And it shows, I've created from PowerPoint. This is simply tables, and these are all buttons that that go to links in my tree. For instance, if I want to go to Google Images, it's linked to Google. If I want to go to all those things I have in history, it'll list those things, subfolders I've created. If I want materials, for instance, I can just go there. It lists all my audio for my textbook stories, all the tests for those stories, materials that I've collected and digitalized for our novels. I have scanned all their oral language things that they do in the mornings and so forth. It's really handy to go fast to those things you need right away. Now, up here I have a link to another page that lists all my standards for school that year. These are old state standards. So if I push on one of these, I now go to a section that tells me my materials that I have and tests. I can click on these and it has my major tests to test those standards. If I want extra materials, things that I've scanned, for instance, are here. I can copy these off the printer or I can show them on the overhead. Now, let's go inside the computer to see the folder structure that this page links to. So again, I'm going to push flag E to go to Windows Explorer, and I've set these two folders, main folders, inside of here. Now I have my old standards folder right here, and if I click on it, it breaks down. And if you remember, some of these you may recognize that you saw on that front page PowerPoint. All of these are linked. That page is linked to these pages. And look at my folders, how they're broken down. These are the main strands of the California State Standards. And underneath these, I've created the subfolders and the subfolders, for instance, for those standards. And I've put materials that I've garnered off the internet and so forth, and supplemental materials. Now, those are the old state standards. And I have also started on the new Common Core standards right here. And if I click on this, it also shows the main strands right here. Same kind of structure. And I set up those folders. Now you might think this takes a long time, but it only took me about 20 minutes to do the whole thing. Once you get used to it, it's not very hard. And that's a great way to organize things. I'm not particularly good at dealing with paper, but digital stuff, it's a lot easier and faster. Okay, let's start our own tree. Again, I'm going to go to flag E, and under my computer, or under the name of my folders, I'm going to start a new folder. I'm going to right click here again. I'm going to go to new, and I'm going to call this CCSS. Okay, setting up my new folder just as the one I showed you up here. Now, what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at the standards, and you can print these off on the folder or on the internet like I showed you. These are the key strands: reading standards for informational text, writing standards, and so forth. There are 5 of them. And so I'm reading off of that as I do that. So the first one, I'm going to right click here, put new folder, and I'm going to write reading standards. Okay. The next one, I'm going to go right back up here to the original folder. I'm going to create another folder called writing standards. So I'm just going to put 2 because of time constraints here. But underneath here, I'm going to write the standards under reading. So I'm going to right click on that, create a new folder, and I'm going to call it 6.1. 6 being the grade and 1 the standard. Now, what I do here is I'm going to, let me rename this. I'm going to paraphrase the standard, and it says cite textual evidence to support analysis, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to put cite textual evidence. And I do that for all of those standards. Let's go to 6.2. Get a new folder. And there are shortcuts for this, but for our purposes, we'll just use the mouse. We're going to type in 6.2. And it says determine the theme or central idea. I'm just going to write determine theme. And that's how we do it. In the same way, I go to the writing standards, I create my new folder, subfolders under that. Now, once I've done all of that, I'm going to create subfolders under each standard. And what I do is I put, I'm going to create a folder called tests. And I'm going to insert all my tests in there. Of course, you have to digitalize that stuff, make PDFs out of them. And I put a folder called materials, which you can put any kind of folders you want. For instance, you might put a subfolder under materials and call it Memeos, and another subfolder called PowerPoints. And that's how we create the standards tree. Have a great day.